Week 18, we know what time it is. The Vikings, they're going to have to face the final boss of the regular season. And in order to pull off this upset victory, they're going to have to do it in Detroit. And the Lions, they're going to be fired up, trying to bite off kneecaps and whatever other joints that they can find, led by what I can only describe as a walking can of Monster Energy drink, their head coach in Dan Campbell, with this video brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. This game was originally scheduled to be at noon Central Standard Time, but we all expected, dare I say, knew that this was going to eventually be flexed to a primetime game, and it was. Officially, this is now going to be Sunday night, and the Vikings, they're going to be ready for it. KOC has demonstrated this year that there are no letdown games, that there is no win too great of emotions to have the emotional letdown the following game. They are going to be competitive. And within that team being ready, Sam Darnold, the quarterback, QB1, he is so even keeled. And in a situation like this, so much pressure, high stakes, this is the kind of guy that you want to lead your team on the football field. Following the Jacksonville game, Sam has thrown for 18 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. He's been on a heater. And right at the doorsteps of the playoffs starting, he has picked the right time, the perfect time to get hot. And I tell you what, man, my current mode of thinking is that regardless of the results of next week's game against Detroit, I'm just ready for the playoffs to start. That whichever avenue that the Vikings are forced to take into the postseason, they are going to make a deep playoff run, whether it's at the 1 seed and you get the bye, or you have to travel as the 5 seed on the road to face off against the Bucks or the Falcons. And I can spin it in a positive either way, that you get the 1 seed, the bye, some much needed rest, and the rest of the playoffs, that is, hopefully until you make it to the Super Bowl in New Orleans, your opponents will have to face you on your home field in front of your home crowd, which is arguably the toughest place to play as a visiting team in all of football. Or the other side, you travel as a 5 seed. You know what? If we had gotten that bye week, that time off, there's a good chance we would have lost some of our edge. The momentum we had coming into the playoffs wouldn't be at the same level. I'm glad that we're keeping this train going. Let's go. The first matchup between these two teams, the Vikings, they lost by 2 points. It was a damn near even performance in terms of yards, time of possession, even turnovers and penalties. Damn near equals. I believe the Vikings will be more prepared for the second go-round. And of course, you have to expect the same from the Lions. It is going to be a hell of a matchup next Sunday night. But going back to last night's game between the Vikings and the Packers, actually before the game started, Kayshawn Nixon, who is the prodigy to Jair Alexander, two bum-ass cornerbacks who flaps their gums as if they're Deion Sanders. Instead, they're more closer to the likes of Rashad Breeland. Kayshawn Nixon, before the game started, was asked by ESPN, how challenging is it to face off against Sam Darnold? Nixon basically said Sam Darnold is light work.
As cornerback Keyshawn Nixon with the challenges in defending Sam Darnold. Nixon telling me, I don't really think it is a challenge.
It must have been opposite day, because Sam Darnold is the one who actually proved that it's not a challenge going up against the Green Bay Packers secondary. ×2, by the way. New customers at BetUS Sportsbook and Casino get a 150% bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000. Promo code YouTube150. And the talks of Sam Darnold and his contract, his future with the Vikings, have gone even stronger after last night's game, and it's going to continue to go on into the offseason until an announcement has been made whether he has re-signed with Minnesota or has signed elsewhere. And I've made my argument that I feel like they should stick with the original plan. JJ McCarthy, KOC, can, I believe, build up any quarterback to be the best version of himself. JJ McCarthy, far more cheaper than Sam Darnold. You can build up the roster. I've said that time and time again. But whatever decision that they make, even if I disagree with it, I'm going to go ahead and trust this coaching staff, trust this front office, because they feel that whatever they are going to do is going to be in the best interest of the team. The Vikings, they're in a title window right now, regardless of who the quarterback is going to be for at least the next 3 or 4 years. But all the talks about Sam Darnold is valid, but I feel like in the shadows this whole time is KOC, the culture, the strength of the locker room. And we've talked about all these different players and all these remarks that he has, these positive remarks that KOC has had on these players. We've seen KOC walking up to quarterbacks that his team just beat post game saying, hey, I think you're doing a great job. Keep up the good work, what have you. Talked about Aaron Jones last week. I want to run through a wall for this guy, paraphrasing. But we now have KOC talking about one of his own players in Cam Akers, who had a hell of a performance, and I would say the play of the game with that clutch-ass catch last night on the final drive to seal the game. Here's KOC on Cam Akers.
Yeah, Cam has something inside him that allowed him to push through the adversity of what's happened to him over the course of his career. He loves football. I think he loves being a Minnesota Viking. He loves his teammates. His teammates, were probably the most excited all season when Cam scored on that screen, and then obviously the catch late. He just brings something, brings physicality, brings a level of mental and physical toughness that I think makes us all better. We've got a lot of examples like that on our team, but Cam's just another one of them that I feel very fortunate to have him on this team.
KOC has made Minnesota the place to be if you're a player. And not just how Sam Darnold looks happy. You see all of these players having their careers rejuvenated. And I believe strongly that the Vikings will have their pick. They are going to be the front runners to sign whoever it is that they want in free agency. That's what KOC, the effect that he has had with this franchise. Incredible. And for your boss to speak highly of you, an employee, normally it's like, all right, you have to grovel to your manager, to your supervisor. Yeah, I believe in this guy and whatever to try and keep your job, but it goes both ways. He reciprocates that same energy that he gets from his staff. It's amazing. And going back to the locker room vibes, speaking of the locker room, did you see that welcome that Sam Darnold got post-game? It's one thing to hear about the vibes. It's another thing to see it. Look how happy everyone is for this guy. And switching topics here, sticking with the Vikings, of course, there was the thought, the dream, the expectation really that Calais Campbell was going to get released by the Dolphins, and that was under the assumption that they were going to be eliminated from going to the playoffs. And unfortunately, the Dolphins, they beat the Cleveland Browns on the road. It must not have been cold. If it was cold, I would be shocked. But alas, they are still in the hunt to get into the playoffs. So that means that he's going to finish his year likely as a Miami Dolphin. But man, I was sitting here dreaming like crazy about the thought of Harrison Phillips, Jerry Tillery, Calais Campbell. Oh my God. Going into the playoffs? Are you kidding me? That would have been great. Will Reichert, since his return from IR, has hit just 70% of his field goal attempts. Is there cause for concern? I talked about this yesterday. The timing isn't great because the postseason is right around the corner. But I'm hoping that we don't have a repeat of 98. I believe in him and his ability to bounce back just because KOC and his ability to lift guys up from their slumps. But man, I was in the camp of, hey, you got to keep two kickers. John Parker Romo. If Will Reichert ain't it, If he's going through something, coming back from IR, all right, at least you have JPR as a safety blanket. But alas, he is gone. And I was going to do this at the conclusion. I still am after next week's game. But the official channel picks, the bets made on this channel this season, we have them, all 12 of them so far. We did the math. We have the calculations. Bam. And as an aside, there were 4 that we can't really include in here because they were more so 4 weeks of me reacting to what the current odds were at the time instead of, okay, I like this bet. For example, KOC, let's say he was at one point plus 1,200 behind Dan Campbell in first place, plus 1,000 to win Coach of the Year. Hey man, KOC should clearly be the front runner for this award. If he doesn't win it, it's a whole ass sham. Or Sam Darnold's MVP odds. Hey, that's nice. He's having a hell of a season. Really, if it wasn't for the new measurements, the qualifiers they have made for Comeback Player of the Year, man, that would be the better story. He's not going to win MVP because of Josh Allen, so on and so forth. But 12 official bets made. And I guesstimated yesterday that I was, oh man, I got to be at least at 75%, maybe even 77. All right, a little bit off, but 12 bets made, 8, 3, and 1. The 1 comes from the tie. Week 12, taking the Bears -3, and it was a push. The Bears lost by 3, Vikings won by 3. But that's close to a 71% hit rate. I would say that's not bad. What say you? Let me know in the comments section below. Thanks to the folks at BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. We'll see you next time.